Hi, I'm Howard. Welcome to my Black Gold Blog podcast. This is one of my initial podcasts, and I hope to make a series of additional podcasts from the perspective of a Black progressive blogger and activist over the next month. The next month is, of course, Black History Month, still yet in America for some of us. Have you ever heard of the Tuskegee Airmen? Some of you are scratching your heads, especially the younger ones who did not live earlier through the times when Black history was being made, where groups of Black patriots and brave warriors, such as the Tuskegee Airmen, were flying through the skies of Europe, trying to help preserve democracy, freedom, the American way, as well as our European allies, from the Nazi terrorists that were ravaging Europe, killing and murdering by the thousands and even millions Jewish members of the European community. Basically, some of the same evil genocide and same evil war crimes that some of us are saying we can see today in today's world in a slightly different theater. But in any case, I want to talk to you today about one of the executive orders which Donald Trump, the incoming president of the United States, issued within the past week. During his campaign for election, he frequently discussed his positions and his expectations and desires for what he would do if and when he got elected. Some people did not take his campaign stump speeches seriously. I, of course, did, because I know and I had judged him to be both a coward and an autocrat and a potential wannabe dictator. And I know how they have historically, throughout time, acted. So I was fearful for our nation. And even in face of those who were saying, no, he doesn't mean that, it's all hyperbole and so forth, I said, well, let's sit back and watch. And of course, you don't have to have been watching very aggressively or hard during the past week to see that many of the positions and prattlings that this demented incoming president had verbalized to his MAGA, M-A-G-A, followers during the campaign while they cheered and stomped and screamed a whole bunch of different excited suggestions about where America was going. You didn't have to watch very long to see that he, in fact, was serious. And now we are seeing through his executive orders and his deranged thinking patterns and aggressive bullying and retribution efforts today, he was very serious. And his serious, demented, and evil vision of America and retribution against those who sought to retain and protect democracy are obvious at this point. But the one aspect of his campaign and the one aspect related to an executive order he issued, I want to discuss about in this particular podcast, relates to the concept of diversity and inclusion, diversity, education, and inclusion, or as some people say, DEI. Although nobody really seems able to quite pin down a definition of what DEI is. It apparently is a synonym or another way of just basically saying make America white again, a cover for basically white supremacy ideology such as we saw during the Reconstruction period. But one of the uh, uh, first steps that we see in the first week of Donald Trump's MAGA administration is an executive order outlining that in all of the government agencies, DEI concepts should be stripped, and we should go to a simple meritocracy, merit-based approach to uh, how people get jobs and who is better prepared to carry forth the agenda of what the American people actually want or need or deserve. And so, just a day or two, uh, Pete Segeth, who is a poster child from Fox News for alcoholism, supposedly, uh, woman abuse, supposedly, and possibly for violations of uh, the Geneva Conference and other uh, 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 aspects of international law relating to how war is to be conducted. We saw this person confirmed just narrowly by one vote by the MAGA Republicans in the United States Senate to be the new defense Secretary of Defense in charge of a $3 million correction, well, it's a big budget and millions of employees. Uh, and he basically was totally unqualified for anything except uh, discard and disruption of a military that may need some adjustment and modification and oversight, but certainly not to be dismantled through dissension, discard, uh, uh, killing the esprit de corps and uh, the beliefs of the soldiers and people working in the Department of Defense about what the values of America are and what the values of America's fighting force should be. Within 24 hours of the MAGA Republican Senate confirmation of Pete Hegwith, uh, we get his first executive order and see how it actually is impacting. What was his first order? All vestiges of DEI in the military are to be gone. Was he serious? Obviously, he was serious. Obviously, this coincided with what Donald Trump had been advocating and saying he would do on the stump, as I said, to the cheers of his admirers and those people in the MAGA rally audiences who felt that uh, perhaps only white males should be in charge of our country, and only white males, white Anglo-Saxon males, were in fact true Americans, and everybody else was basically just a DEI uh, appointment or a DEI person, an affirmative action tragedy. And so we get Pete Segeth, who obviously is one of the most qualified people in the world to be a DEI appointment at this point in time. The guy seems to be and is described as a total loser. But within 24 hours of his appointment and entry into the Department of Defense, we start to see manifested what this will mean for each and every one of us, and in particular for each and every one of the soldiers who are presently serving our country and placing their lives in jeopardy to protect us. And us are those people who appreciate the fact that they are making such significant sacrifices as best they can to keep us safe. Each of those were volunteers in the service. You don't find very many of the people who are screaming about DEI in the military who are actually in the military. There are some, but most of the people who are screaming about uh, DEI, critical race theory, which they also have difficulty understanding and defining, most of those people did not have time to provide service to their country that placed them in any jeopardy. Uh, and many of them apparently went to the extent of growing bone spurs and finding doctors willing to certify that they could not be drafted during times when they were eligible for the draft. So this is the background that leads us up to my question. Have you ever heard about the Tuskegee Airmen? And one of the first indications of the seriousness of the attack on DEI comes from the fact that now we learn, and we can find posted on many of the public websites uh, uh, maintained by the Department of Defense, that videos that had been there before decrying the history of the military and the service of the brave men and women also in the military have been edited, and portions of those videos, which were used for training of new recruits and also for explanation to those who were already in the service about the fighting force we had, who was in it, and their contributions. Those particular aspects of the videos have been edited out. So, whereas historically there were references within the Department of Defense training and materials and on their websites about the Tuskegee Airmen, who were all black flyers in a segregated United States Army during World War II, that has been excised. And so I'll answer the question, and those of you who have an interest and willingness can also Google it. The Tuskegee Airmen, some of whom gave their very lives in the service of our country, fighting in Europe to preserve a European peace and to protect discriminated against people like Jews in Nazi Germany time. Those people are now suddenly not mentioned as being a part of the history of the United States military in their training because they are all considered to be DEI related, whatever that means, or to have been less than what the military wanted or needed during the World War II periods and subsequent. And, it's kind of disgusting and a sign of the obvious ignorance of people, especially our young people, about uh, Black history, which is American history, which means their ignorance about American history, that they don't realize that throughout the history of this country, going all the way back to 1619, when the first Negro slaves were brought here in chains from Africa to become slaves and servants in the United States, especially in what we call the red states now, which I call the new Confederacy Redux. Those people have, from the very beginning, been warriors to protect our country, even during times when they were not even considered to be people. And so in 1776, which many of the MAGA world revere as a time when the country started and everything should be just like 1776, In those battles where America was fighting for its freedom and liberty from a despot, from a king who abused them and took them for granted with autocratic ways in England when the United States was a colony, they were fighting alongside white people, or for that matter, maybe even in front of them to protect them from onslaughts in some battles, to protect the freedom of the American people. Of course, for those who regard uh, uh, the American Constitution that derived from 1776 as being a gospel or document that needs to be interpreted going way back to the beginning of this nation, the originalists, they call themselves, uh, uh, they can make a distinction in their mind that, uh, black people, and for that matter, women, were not really whole, genuine, real people. Black people were the equivalent of 3/5 of a person, but they were not people. Women, I don't know how they were regarded, uh, maybe somewhere between where the Negro slaves were in the hierarchy and the white males were, but they were not considered to be citizens. They were considered also to be a special type of property, property of their masters, their lords, their men, their husbands, their patrons. And so now we have reverted with the new MAGA administration of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth to a time when the military is trying to cleanse itself of lesser, inferior people. And that includes blacks and women. And we hear lots of people of importance, including the new uh, uh, director of the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, saying that women are not capable or deserving of being able to fight alongside men. They've not yet gone to the point of saying that black people, Latino people, people of color, people who are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants deriving from the old Confederacy hierarchy, uh, should not be in the services because they need somebody to be cannon fodder. And so basically, those people who are not women, those people who are not gay, those people who present themselves uh, as uh, macho, uh, killer, true fighters, those people can stay because we need them at this point. Although there have been suggestions that many of them, as well as workers and their support staff, can eventually be replaced by robots designed and produced by someone like Elon Musk. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make now is when somebody tells you who they are, you should believe them. That is something Maya Angelou said, and she said it for a repetition or a reiteration of the concept going back hundreds of years elsewhere. If you fool me once, shame on me. If you fool me twice, you fooled me because I am a fool. So, in any case, the point is made, I believe. Uh, the DEI appointments are now only the accepted appointments to the military or to any federal job, unless they are DEI based on legacy or DEI based upon uh, uh, having money, or DEI based upon being among the favorite pawns of someone like Donald Trump. who wants to be, on the first day of his administration, a true autocratic dictator. So that's something for you to think about. As an introduction to my series of podcasts, which I hope and expect to do during the month of February, because as I said, and as I'm sure you are aware, February is Black History Month. And whether you call it Black history or Latino history or whatever, that is really only relevant if you're trying to distinguish those groups of people from white Americans and white American history, because white American history is pretty sterile and is really just a history of how many white Americans interacted with other groups, including women, blacks, or Negroes, depending on what you want to call them, Latinos, or whatever you want to call them. You know, as James Brown once said, this is a man's world, and he believed that too. He was genuinely a misogynist. It is a man's world, and he was probably correct about that. But he could just as easily have sung, it's a man's world, it's a white man's world, and it's a world where Black and colored people are not DEI people who don't deserve to be a part of America and America's history. So, looking forward to that. If you want to see my podcasts as they develop, or if you want to see what I have to say in writing on my blogs and podcasts elsewhere, I invite you or your friends to go on the internet to spence-associates.blog. That's SPENCE hyphen ASSOCIATES.blog. And there you can provide me with your comments. You can provide me with your suggestions about topics that you would like me to discuss. You can provide me with your rebuttal to things that I say and believe, because what I'm telling you is what I believe, and you can do the fact check yourself if you have the skills and ability to do a fact check. And I look forward to talking with you all again, and your friends, and my friends, and some of the people who are not my friends. And in fact, some of you I may want to invite to participate as a video guest and talk to me from a different perspective about some of the topics that I hope to cover. And I should indicate, I do not write my blog articles, and I do not present my podcast videos and comments for uneducated people, for people who have closed minds. Don't waste our time. I don't debate fools, because you can never beat them. People with sincere beliefs, yes, I'll talk to you. People with open minds, I'll gladly welcome you. And so, again, thank you for listening if you got this far. I really appreciate you. I'm an old man. I'm not going to be around forever or long, but I do want to leave something for the next generation. And what I want to leave is critical thinking, the ability to understand, the ability to help democracy survive, the ability to be somebody who is somebody. So have a great day.